You can go ahead. I don't really. They'll ask me what they want to, and I'll answer it.
Yeah, Coach, going back and looking at the film, I don't know. I didn't think the offensive line blocked maybe as bad as we thought coming out, but maybe there was a problem here and there with just having 7 real drives.
Man, I tell you what,
exacerbated.
I thought in all honesty, how you could convince your team of this is how we're going to win. I guess it's the old Dean Smith 4 corners. You know what I mean? Especially with the clock like it is. What was the game? 2 hours and 45 minutes. You know what I mean? Well, then you start pressing because you're supposed to win by a bunch of margin. It didn't go so well at first. Here's what I saw. We're not covering. Our fits up front have to get better. In other words, everything's getting popped out to safeties, and we're not making any of them miss either. So we've got to make safeties miss. We quit putting RPO on the back end of it. We weren't particularly throwing the ball well either, weren't catching it. And so at some point, Dan and I had a conversation about we're going to win the game. Let's see if we can't try to get our run game going. And we tried several different things. We found out some things that we can do and some things that we can't do. How we could take the ball with the last 6 minutes and displace the line of scrimmage like we did and not do it at the beginning. We've got to figure all that kind of stuff out. But the bottom line is this, is that our fits aren't good at tight end. They got to get better. Our fits are not good consistently up front. They've got to get better. Our blocking on the outside is on edge. It's got to get better. Our catching game, we had 2 third downs. We dropped the ball. We stay on the field. The game could be much different. Those things we have to get better. But after I saw that, I actually thought we played better last week than we did this week up front. But I didn't think we played too bad, actually, last week up front. This week, it's all about edges. It's about displacing linemen. And when we were in double teams, the only time that we truly displaced their D-line is at the end of the game, the last 6 minutes. Those things have got to become more consistent. I think Bo has to become a more vocal leader. He's got to go. I think having Brady back will help us. But we have to get better there. We're addressing it. We addressed it last week. It may not be just a quick fix. I think where we're going in the order of how we're playing our games is going to help us with a new coordinator. And there were some mistakes. A new coordinator continued to try to figure out exactly what we do well, what we can do well, but you have to do something well, and I think our backs got to run harder.
You mentioned after the press conference there was the pin and pull play where you're talking about hitting the hole. I think you were talking about second quarter.
You saw it.
Yeah, and Dominion kind of bounces it out. Well, later in the game, he actually was hitting it.
Made a safety miss and got 8 or 10 yards on the play.
Is that a conversation that you have? Is it like you have to trust the hole's going to be there because Limmer blew it open about the same time, or is it you have to have patience? Is it trust or patience? What's the
what pin and pull is? You got to understand the play. I think you know what I mean. What pin and pull is it should guarantee you getting the ball outside the tight end. It should guarantee that because you've seen so many stretch plays that are full zone blocking plays, and they hit behind the center. I mean, that we're acting like we're stretching. Every now and then it'll hit front side of the tackle. Never gets outside the tight end. And pin and pull is one where you're going, I'm going to get in space. Obviously you don't want to pin and pull if they're in a 9 technique. You'd rather run some kind of inside gap scheme, inside zone. But if someone's going to give you that, you want to take advantage of it. You can get out to the edge, but then it's kick out, cover. That's just what it is. So when our tackle went to kick out, we just kept trying to outrun the kick out block. Well, that's not the design of the play. And so, again, it's a new play for us. But We should be better than that. We run it all the time in practice. So I think that is just trusting and understanding the play, to be perfectly honest with you.
The questions we asked the other night about your run game, your fans have seen a team that ranked 7th in the country in rushing the last 2 years. So maybe is it too much to expect that a bunch of new linemen, a new coordinator, that you can hit at that level, and then you got to build up to that?
You know, it's just a different offense. I think that's whenever you go with hire new coordinators, that's your biggest fear, that something that's worked well in the past doesn't anymore. You know what I mean? And we've had our trouble running the ball last 2 years at times, but we've been pretty consistent, running the football. So no, I don't think that's. I can promise you whatever the concern would be. No, that's not true, because they're concerned a little bit more than me about different things. But the concerns of the fans, certainly, I can promise you we want to win and have success as bad as anybody. And so that's valid. We got to we got to find a way to fix it. I'm not for sure. I think I might have said it the other night, that having RPOs on the back end of some things, it can dictate the numbers in the box, unless they're just willing to play man-to-man coverage the whole night, which our league probably will. But if you're not having the threat of throwing the ball, which we took away, then you're going to get a loaded box, and that's what happened. Then it becomes frustrating because I said I've never been around a team that couldn't run inside zone, and we haven't had success with it. And it's either we're not getting the movement, our fits aren't good, it's kicking outside to an unblocked safety. So all those things we went in depth with yesterday about how can we give our kids the best way of winning. And it doesn't necessarily have to be running the football, but you have to run the football to win, in my opinion.
So you beat BYU by 17, could have scored at the end and made it 24. So KJ talked about playing with more passion, and I may be understanding the opponent, whatever. But so your players saw a blowout on the road. Do you have to kind of warn them again, this is a different BYU team? And what's the scouting report on them?
Well, a hard team, anybody who's undefeated, including us, they're hard to beat. They haven't learned how to lose yet in that season. That group of guys that's playing together hadn't been beat, so they don't know how to lose. But I think the tape, to be perfectly honest with you, they're 2-0. Their tape, they play extremely hard. I mean, they do. They did last year. I think they're a better football team than they were last year. Big, physical team. They've got a guy at each level on defense that I think is really good. Their defensive end. They're Thule. I loved him last year. Just a hard playing kid. And then Robinson. So they've got more than that, but those are kind of standout guys on defense. They're totally different on defense than they were last year. And got a guy from Weber State in, and they are multiple now. And against us, because of our not having success running the ball, I'm sure we're going to see a tremendous amount of looks. They moved pre-snap, some things we've got to get ready for. But they ran odd pressure. They're a fire zone team, which we have not seen this year either, where it's true 3 under, 3 deep. So they're going to cause us some problems because they move so much. They blitz quite a little bit. Offensively, they're really big, really good at tackle. Kingsley, again, I said it last year, but I tried to get him to go to Georgia. End up going to Oregon and transferring in. And then they got the kid, Etienne the kid from Oklahoma State at the other. Huge guys. I think those are 2 premier type tackles. And I don't know if Epps is going to be back or not, but he was hurt he's hurt 2 weeks. He's a really good player at wideout 2. Their number 2, this Chase Roberts is a really, he catches a lot of balls. He reminds me a little bit of R4, to be perfectly honest with you. And then, they got the quarterback transfer in from Pitt. And Number 5 is a really good wideout too. So they're a stretch team, a boss counter team. They run a lot more stretch this year than they had in the past. I think they're still trying to run the ball a little bit as well. Two teams remind me a little bit of each other. I think their defense is playing outstanding. Their offense is playing well, but their defense is, to me, really playing well, like ours. And so it's a good matchup. They're a big physical football team.
Ball seemed to be playing pretty confident in the second half. Do you feel good about his health where he's at, and then I guess the linebacker room as a whole now that Greer's back?
Yeah, health-wise, he's fine. He's ready to go. We had a little problem with the tight end crossing going into the flat. We missed that twice on Saturday, but Pooh's running well, moving well, made a nice tackle on, I guess, maybe their longest play the other day, or came down and made a tackle, 20 yards down the field or whatever. But, he's just been hurt or out of the game. We've got to get him settled in, but I did think he played a fine game. Jaheim Thomas has been probably the most consistent guy that we've had, probably our best linebacker in 2 weeks. And then, of course, we got Greer in there. Crook didn't get a chance to get in there just the way the game was going and all that, but we certainly believe in him as well.
And it seemed like, he made another key block on the goal line. What does that say about him as a guy who, he's not getting the ball to score, but he's willing to do whatever it takes?
Well, he's by far our best blocker down there, and so you go, well, we're going to use him in the block. Well, if you don't use him in the block, what other guy are you going to use? And especially this week with Rocket being out, we don't have another real big guy back there, So he's a great kid, great team player. I wish we could have more success handing him the ball, and I do believe that we will in the future, but it says a lot about his character, especially all the things that he's gone through. But he has done well on the goal line, as you've said, making some key blocks. And 23 did, too, the other day, made a nice block.
You just touched on it there. Rocket, is he for sure out this week, and just how's he doing overall?
Rocket will be out this week, and then we'll figure out, how fast he can recover. Got to get some swelling off of him, and once we do that, then we'll see how fast, whether we can have him back for LSU. I just don't know right now.
With his turf toe, is that an injury he had in the Western Carolina game, or is it in practice? Or?
No, he got it on Thursday, and late in the practice on Thursday. We thought he was going to be okay, and then he went out there and just said he couldn't push off of it, and in all honesty, Stewart played a good game, had one ball caught on him there, but played a good game, and it'll help us in the future with that. But I expect Duty back this week.
Coach, BYU, they scored 14 in week 1 and then more than 40 in week 2. I'm just curious, what have you seen on film that kind of let that offense take a step forward from week 1?
I think Sam Houston's really good. I think they're really good on defense. I think they're one of the top 20 as far as ratings go in their first 2 games that they've played. So I think they played a pretty good defense the first game. Obviously, they have some first-time guys, the quarterback, all that kind of stuff. I thought the second game, if you look at us on offense, and we didn't hardly have any explosive plays, and explosive plays are what you need for a lot of reasons, But BYU got quite a few explosive plays through the air. They hit 83 for a long pass, so I think the run game was better against Southern Utah. It was a lot better than the week before, but they the quarterback threw the ball much better game 2 than he did game 1, and they made some nice plays off of it. They got good receivers now.
And then on the flip side, in that matchup for your defense, it's been a pretty good 2 weeks. I mean, has there anything that's surprised, or what are you most happy with the defense at this point in the season?
Well, we haven't cut anybody loose behind us. I think that's, we're not giving easy points. We have had a few MAs underneath routes and things of that nature. We got picked the other night in a 3-by-1. that they end up making that bigger play for us. We were in man coverage. But I think right now we're swarming the ball well. I didn't think we tackled as well Saturday as we did the first game. We're not wrapping up. We got to wrap up, and we're just trying to knock the heck out of the guy, knock him down. Well, you got to wrap him up. But I've been really proud of our defense. I put them in a bad situation. They had to punt, goal line. They stopped them. Now you might say, well, they got down there. Well, teams are going to get down there on you. But for 2 field goals in that game, been really proud. And situational ball, I think we've been a lot better than what we have been in the past.
There's a video circulating on the internet of KJ getting Skittles after a touchdown. I don't know what's the backstory behind that? Anything?
No, I guess he just likes candy. I don't know.
If it's a reward or low blood sugar.
No, man, it ain't where, I need to find out where he's getting them from.
Sam, you've said a couple of times Jaheim Thomas has maybe been your most consistent linebacker. Like, what's he doing well, or what are you most pleased with?
Pretty much mistake-free. He's right now he's our most consistent tackler. Not jumping out of gaps. He's pretty much gap-free, gap sound in there. And, he's just a guy that, well, for those reasons, been playing pretty well.
Armstrong's been pretty good for you the first 2 weeks. Just going back to when you were trying to get him here, does anything come to mind, like recruiting process-wise maybe?
He's just a lot better than I thought he would be, to be perfectly honest with you. He's a lot faster. He showed flashes on tape of all the things that we've seen here, but he's Tesla. Let's put it like this: Tesla is about what I thought he would be, and Armstrong's much better than what I thought he would be, and I think it's just because of his speed, overall speed, and his ability to catch. But I think it has everything to do with what kind of person he is, and he's just a hard work, great kid. Well, both of them are. A lot of them are, but you asked me specifically about him. He's just a real great kid that's appreciative of, playing before a sold-out, full-capacity crowd and those things.
With someone that's maybe playing himself into a few more snaps.
Yeah, you know what's happening right now. None of them is playing very much. They've got the rotation. I'll be honest with you, I don't know who to take out of that rotation. And you got to get Nico in there somewhere too, because he can fly and does some nice things. But Kiwi is a guy that is certainly we're talking about moving up to the ones. However, I think we had Jeff Coat had over 30 reps, and I don't think anybody else did. Now the game was, there wasn't as many reps, but most of them were in that high 20s. Now Stu came in; he didn't have that many, but he was very disruptive. It's good to have him back as well. But he was knocking people the line of scrimmage back, and so that's going to cut into somebody's reps too.
Jeff got SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week. Can you speak on what he's meant to you in that game and the 2 games, in fact?
I think he showed up. He didn't really have any production in the first week, and I think that probably drove him a little bit as well. But, he was chasing the guy. The guy run out of bounds on one of them, and he just fell down on another one, But he played very physical and very hard, and it seemed like he was a little bit more into the game this week than what he was last week. But he's a valuable kid to us.
Is Marion getting maybe closer to being? I know he was injured for a while. Is Marion Harris getting maybe closer to playing some and getting a look at guard maybe as well as tackle?
Well, that's where we're at with him. We pretty much put him. Well, we're doing a little bit of both with him. He's closer. He's closer. Yeah, I'd say you're right. I'd say the question, he's closer. I don't know that he's close enough right now to being any type of rotation, but he's closer, yes.
We touched.
There's not any awards for gunners, but
Man,
yeah, I mean, Tyrone Broden has really embraced that role. Just your thoughts on him, how well he gets down there, and just embracing that role when he really hadn't seen a lot of action.
I wish we could get him some balls. Guy's a good player, but I mean, what we can have 13? What were we 13 for 19 or something like that the other night? I mean, that's throwing the ball very much. It's hard to get a lot of catches that way. So, I wish he would. I wish we could get him the ball because I think he's really good. But with what you just said, I mean, he's so valuable, and this is going to be. They got a punter that's punched about 55 yards every single time, and I don't know if that's because of. I know he's good, but I don't know the air difference and all that kind of stuff on a punted ball, but he's really good. So Broden's got a big. I don't know if they're going to double him or not or what. Right now, people can't handle him one-on-one, but he's done a really good job. And a transfer kid like that to not be getting the balls that he wants and then continue to play like he has says a lot about who he is.
More wide receivers are going to play, but like Satania too, he just saw like 11 snaps, and we've seen how explosive he can be.
Yeah.
What are the thoughts on getting him more action?
I don't,
Because then you got to take somebody out who's doing well.
Well, you do, but Trey, then you start talking about what are you trying to get accomplished. In other words, if you go to, we need a better blocker out there. He's willing and all that, but he's not. He's not as physical as possible, and that probably cost him a few reps. Out there. But we every week we have a rotation that we try to get into with those guys. So because I want to see. Nobody wanted to be 28-6, but I wanted to see some different guys. I want to see where we're at, and his reps kind of got skewed a little bit because of we quit throwing it. But I think he's really talented.
Touched on it earlier about the running play that perhaps wasn't quite understood. Is that one of those things that just has to happen and be called in a game? Times you run it in practice?
No, I don't. I think it's a good question. I don't think so. I think it all depends on. Did you run that look in practice? Are they? Because what they did that was different than the week before is they gap moved. Before it was just they moved from a gap to head up, and then they swiped Bo a couple times. So I think there's some of that. On the short yardage, we missed a run through at the linebacker. Things that we practice. I don't think any of our plays are difficult, but the bottom line is you got to cover them, you got to block them. You do. And the 4th and 1 didn't really have anything. We had to run through, but we left an edge guy out there. We didn't have a guy to block him. We need to can down a little bit further with the wide receiver. But that's a look that we hadn't seen, and didn't work out too good for us.
You made reference to this today about the faster game, shorter game. Is your data showing that your play count is substantially lower, number of plays?
Well, it is, and I don't know what we're going to do with it because we sure are getting the commercials. We're doing a good job there. And I don't mean that negative. We just are. And but the thought of using 40 seconds against a team that you're a big underdog, that's pretty smart now, especially if you've got a frustrated team over on that other side like we were. We discussed that today in our staff meeting. How if you decided to do that, how would you talk to your team about it? Would they believe you that this is your best way to win, or would they believe that you don't think you can win? You know what I mean? There's a fine line in there. But the old boy ran the four corners offense to perfection, and so I don't know, but we had a pretty good discussion on it today as a staff.
Yeah, you also said you kind of told Dan, let's just establish our run game. So in other words, maybe you felt like some passing stuff was there, but you wanted to keep trying to run.
Well, we weren't exactly throwing and catching it great, and I just thought that we could turn around and with the different things we had talked about, especially after halftime, that we could turn around and do some positive things. Well, it didn't happen. So at that point, then now you're trying to make something happen, which I should have never done, and went for it on fourth down, just trying to build a little momentum and things, and that wasn't very smart.
So, but you have to keep the possibility of going on 4th and 1 at the 34-yard line, right? You don't want to just say, okay.
Well, as you saw, I went for it on 4th and 4. I've gone for more fourth down this year than I have in my entire time here, I think. And we've scored points off of it. I guess the first game we scored a couple. Everybody's gone on 4th and goal, but the other time, and then we scored the other day on, I think it was 4th and 4, and scored on that. So I'm becoming a believer of it a little bit more, but not in that situation. Can I ask Nate's question real quick? Since Saturday's game marks the first traditionally big-name opponent for both teams, do you anticipate both teams perhaps preparing with increased urgency compared to their first 2-game week? What's amazing in first 2-game weeks, what's amazing is that you prepare for the first game, and it's like, when is it going to get here, at some point? Because you prepare about 9 days out, and when is it going to get here? When's it going to get here? You're assuming that your guys are going to be hyped up because it's the first game of the year and all that kind of stuff. Your second game of the year, I felt like there was we prepared. You can prepare them all you want, as urgent as you want. They have to accept that there's a reason for urgency. They do. And sometimes it's simply because of who you're playing. I forget, Trey might have asked a question about BYU or Tom, I don't know who did. But BYU, I know this, last year BYU was an urgent game. It was a must-win for us and all those type things. So it is now. And again, like I say, it's hard to beat a team that hadn't lost. And both of us haven't, so someone's going to have to. But I think our kids understand the urgency of this game.
Isaac and Andrew, we talk about the contested catches they're making all the time, but to make a contested catch, there's got to be good coverage. Are you seeing the separation maybe from the receivers that you want to at this point in the season?
Well, yeah, I think so. I don't really know if we catch a couple of those third down ones that I would go, we're not able to get open. You know what I mean? KJ threw the one into just an area that Tesla went and got, but they had 2 on him. You know what I mean? So no, I'm not too worried about that right now. I just, we caught the ball really, really well game 1, and then we had a couple drops, that hurt us. So we just got to catch the ball. I don't think KJ's holding the ball too long back there.
Couple night games coming up, first of the season. You have preferences? One's home and one's away. Do you have a preference, like for a home game or away game or anything like that, or you not worried about it?
I would. It depends on who you're playing, but obviously, if you've got a hyped up situation, game, whatever it be, you'd like to play it at night, at home. And you'd like to play that one at 11 o'clock on the road, There's not really a concern, Trey, but, well, I guess there is, because it's already went through my mind is, we go at night, and then we go over there at night, and we're on four in a row on the road, But that's how it goes, and who's to say what LSU or whomever, or BYU, how they're coming off of their schedule of night or day and all that kind of stuff. So, but if I had my druthers, I'd play at home at night and away at 11 a.m.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, guys.